Hi folks, how's it going? I hope you're doing well, staying home and staying safe. This is part 3 of our Little Kids Rock daily lessons, part 3 of the Reading Guitar Tablature series. So I wanted to go through a couple things with you today. Hope you get something out of this. What was the difference between the first one and the second one? Well, hopefully this lesson will help you to understand some of the techniques that you can utilize when reading guitar tablature and kind of working with your own guitar parts. So we're going to start with the graphic that you see there. As we learned in the previous lessons, the lines stand for the strings of the guitar and the numbers stand for the frets. So in this case we'd have 3, 2, 0, 1. Played one note at a time, because as you can read it, it goes from left to right. But what happens when you start to realize that sort of looks a lot like a similar chord that you might know already, the C chord. So if you were looking at that diagram, you might also check it out, this diagram, where it changes a little bit of how you might read the tab. So a little pointer just as we start out here, whenever you see the numbers stacked on top of each other, what that means is that you should play them all at the same time. So in this case you have a C major chord, so instead of going, you're going to play all 4 of those notes at the same time, as together as you can play them. Not going, but it's simply trying to get them all to sound at the same time. There you go. That's how you read chords in tablature. Now, a lot of chords sometimes make a lot more sense written out in diagrams, but if you see a chord arpeggiated, which means breaking it up and playing one note at the same time, like this, it helps to understand that you're reading just a C major chord and you're going to want to get your fingers set for that whole C major chord, which sounds a whole lot nicer. So for our first example, talking about chords, we're going to look a little bit at the chords to Havana. So in this case, there are 3 chords, as you can see up here, that are just repeated over and over and over. Now this is a great tune, but here's a great part about reading the tablature chords instead of just the chord charts. As you can see with the above chord charts that are written up top, G minor, E flat major, and D7, you could look at that and say, oh, I'm supposed to do this. Which still works, but that's a whole lot harder than. So this is a great song that you can utilize the chords in the tab instead of utilizing the overall big full chords that we'll learn about in a next lesson. So in this case, the first chord, you've got 5, 3, and 3, as you can see in the tab, that kind of mini G minor. And what you're going to want to do is you can bar, which means press down, the 3rd fret on the 2nd string and the 3rd string with your first finger, kind of pressing them both down like that, and then putting your 3rd finger there. That way that first chord sounds like this. Then all you have to do for the next chord is take your middle finger and press it down on the 2nd string on the 4th fret. And now, even easier, all you have to do for the 3rd chord is back up your fingers 1 fret. So instead of going 5, 3, 4, you're now going to go 4, 2, 3. So you've got, here's your first chord, pressing down 5, 3, and 3. Then you're pressing down your middle finger on the 2nd string, 4th fret. And then you're backing it up 1 fret for the next chord. Now it's important to listen to the rhythm too. So we've got a rest, first chord, rest, 2nd chord, rest, 3rd chord, rest, First chord, rest. Second chord, rest. Third chord, rest. First chord, second chord, third chord. So as you can see, those are just the chords to play Havana. So it's a great way to utilize guitar tablature when reading chords. So now for some kind of technical things that I think will really help you when it comes to guitar playing and reading guitar music, sort of a little bit with that first riff that I played, how we made it sound a little bit nicer, a little bit cooler with some of those little added techniques. So this first one that we're going to talk about that you can see here is slides. So oftentimes when you see this bar that goes across on the top and a line underneath, sometimes you'll see an SL period or you'll see just the letter S. That means to slide. And sliding is pretty simple. You press down a note, you play it, and then after you play it, you move your finger up without picking it up. So you can play a note and slide it up without picking up your finger, holding it down, pressing down hard if it's your first time, and moving it all the way up to another fret. So you get kind of a little bit of a slide into the next note, as opposed to just playing. You'll hear. So it's a little bit of a scoop, a little bit of slide into the next note. So in this case, the one you're looking at, we're on the second string, and we're going from the third fret to the fifth fret. So like I said, you're going to want to play the note first, and then let it slide. Now, slides can work both ways. You can have an ascending slide or a descending slide. So on the descending slide, you play the note first, just like before, and you slide it back down, which is a little bit harder, takes a little bit more work. So ascending slides and descending slides. So you can see if it's ascending, you're starting from a lower number moving up, and if it's descending, you're starting from a higher number and moving down. So slides come in all sorts of different fashions on all different strings, and you can utilize them to kind of spice up your guitar playing a little bit. So for instance, that little riff that I played in the beginning, you can spice it up a little bit by adding a slide in the beginning. And that works for a lot of things. If you're taking a solo and instead of going, you can play something like, which adds a little bit more character to your guitar playing. So that's slides, and kind of similar to slides is something called a hammer-on. So a hammer-on is where you're doing a slide in a way, but you're playing one note and then hitting the next note with your other finger. So this one's a little trickier. So we're going to take a look at this graphic here. So again, we're on the second string. We're on the fifth fret, and we're going to be hammering on to the seventh. Now that's a great term, hammer on, because really you're taking one finger, you're playing a note, and then you're taking another finger and you're literally hammering down the next string. I'm sorry, the fret on that same string in order to be able to get another sound. This one definitely takes a lot of work, and takes, you know, a bit of practice like anything. So what you're going to want to concentrate on is that your fingers are coming straight down towards the fretboard. If you try to hammer on from the side or kind of, you know, hit it indirectly, it's not going to work out so well. So in this case, just like the slide, you're going to want to play the note first and then hit as hard as you can with the tip of your finger right down on that next note. So in this case, like the music says, 5 to 7 with the letter H in between the notes. So 5, 7. Now this can be practiced anywhere. If you're having a little trouble here, try moving it up to a higher fret where the tension isn't as high on the guitar. And the important thing is that you want to definitely hear that second note. If you find yourself going and you can't hear that second note, try to hammer on a whole lot harder. Really give it all your might to be able to kind of hit that next note as hard as you can. Now, a great exercise to be able to work on your hammer-ons is this one that you see right here. So this is we're gonna play through the pentatonic scale, the E pentatonic scale, so you're going to use your open strings and you're going to hammer on the frets instead of plucking them. So really you might play this as O3, O2, 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 and so on. But in this case, instead of plucking that second note for each of the strings, we're going to try the hammer on. So try it with me if you want. 2, 3, 4. And let's do that once more. As you can see, it takes a lot of might and sometimes it's not going to be perfect, but you got to press down with that second finger as hard as you can, and remember to try to get it to go straight down with the tip of your finger. Try not to come at it at an angle or with the kind of the fleshy part of your finger. Right, just like that. And a good guitar technique when it comes to hammer-ons and holding your fingers is to make sure that your fingers have a nice curve to them. You don't want to be pressing things down just with a straight hand because it's not going to work too well. Curve your fingers, make sure that your wrist is nice and straight and not tilted out like this. So try that exercise out when it comes to hammer-ons to develop some strength. And then as you get more comfortable, try that pentatonic scale just like the open strings. But try it maybe up here on the 5th fret and try it with your other fingers. So the pinky's a little weaker, your first finger and your second finger are definitely the strongest. So take it easy at the beginning and then move on. The opposite of hammer-ons is something called a pull-off. As you can see, a pull-off is like the reverse of a hammer-on. You're starting on a note, plucking it, and then pulling it really hard so that the string gets plucked again with your left hand finger and resonates on the note that your other finger is pressing down. So in this case, as you can see from the graphic, we have a 7 to a 5. So 7, 5. So you're going to want to press down really hard and then give it a good pull off. This one takes a lot of work as well, but can really give you a lot more character to some of your soloing or some of the other guitar parts that you want to learn. Now here's a great little riff that you can practice for your pull-offs. Again, we're on this A pentatonic scale, sort of over the 5th fret. So it's going to go 8, 5, a pull-off. 8, 5, 7, 5, 8, 5. As you can see, that's a lot more interesting than just going. Getting that pull-off in there gives it a little more pizzazz. So let's move on to a song that I'm sure that you know. Bad Romance. So we're going to take a look at this. Now, if you look at this graphic right here, the standard notation, here's where tablature really helps out. We can play that riff also here. Or even here. So which one is it? Well, that's a great question. That's why tablature really helps us. So as you can see from this graphic, it can help to learn the song with some open strings first, where you're going. Now this graphic I made with the Little Kids Rock guitar tab builder that you can see from my previous lessons or access in the Jam Zone, where you're just dragging numbers into lines that anybody can use through PowerPoint. So now this riff is great if you're just playing it here. another way you can kind of jazz it up a little bit, make it a little more interesting, is try it up here. Now, a great assignment for you or for maybe one of your students, if you're watching this, try tabbing this out up here in the 5th position, and then also try tabbing it out up here in the 9th position to see kind of which one feels more comfortable or which one gives you the best result for what you're after. So if you're playing it here in 5th position, what if you put a little slide in there? Makes it a little more interesting. So moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about the famous riff from the song Oi Komova. Now, again, here's a great example where, if you're looking at the standard music notation, there are a lot of different ways to play this, but not all of them make as much sense on the guitar. So in this case, we might not really be sure exactly where to start, but with this graphic, you're given a tab that kind of helps you out not only with guitar positioning, but also with kind of the places to put each of your fingers, and maybe even a little bit of a slide in there. So we're going to start in 7th position, and if you're unsure what that means, that just means that we're kind of starting with our first finger centered around the 7th fret. Now, as you can see, a slide really makes this song sound authentic. If you played it, there's just something a little bit off, but making sure you get the slide in there really helps out. Now, if you keep yourself in 7th position, you're going to use your 4th finger for 10, your 1st finger for 7, 2nd finger for 8, and the slide up, remember, you're not going to switch fingers for that. You're going to kind of go out of position a little bit and then have to reset yourself. So remember, with that slide, you're plucking that note hard, and then without picking your finger up, you're really giving it a good slide up to the next fret. Now, it takes a little bit of practice to be able to stop where you want to stop, but look down while you're doing it and kind of keep that end result in mind. Now, one of the riffs that I played in the beginning of this lesson was Sunshine of Your Love, the famous song by Cream. So, as you can see, we're going. Now, if you wanted to mix that up a little bit, like I was showing in the beginning, instead of just starting on 12, do a slide up from 10 to 12. Which sounds definitely a little more authentic to the recording. So it's not only that you're playing the right notes when it comes to tablature, but you're also adding in some of those authentic things like hammer-ons and pull-offs and slides. Now, in this lesson, we covered some chords, hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides, and I think, with some good practice, those will definitely help you. Now, a great part about hammer-ons, pull-offs, and slides is also if you're improvising or composing any music of your own, you can really liven up your riffs and your melodies that you're creating with some of these things. For instance, if you're playing on the 5th fret and you're playing that A minor pentatonic, 5, 8, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 8, 5, 8. If you throw in some pull-offs, hammer-ons, slides, instead of it sounding just very choppy with individual notes, you can really get a better sound. So, for instance, could be better as, not the same notes, but you get the point. So something along the lines of, could be more interesting as, some hammer-on, some pull-offs, maybe a slide or two in there. So I hope this has been helpful. Like I said, we did some chords. Remember, if they're stacked vertically, it means you're supposed to play them all at the same time. The slides, you'll see some lines kind of arced over the two notes with a a line going up or a line going down, and the letter S or an SL for slide, H, hammer on, and P for pull off. So I hope this has been helpful. Good luck with your guitar tablature reading, and have a great day. Thanks.